Hi everybody, Shaun Dix here from Creative Excellence. So I'm going to talk to you about the creative fight back, how brands can survive and revive during these challenging times. And I think the million-dollar question you all have right now, or a lot of us have, is does creativity still matter now? And we know we are in unprecedented times in this crisis, and a large part of the world's population is going through a very stressful time. And so that impacts on how they are receiving information and digesting advertising. So what we can definitely say, and a lot of the industry is saying too, is that going dark is not the answer right now. And Chris would have reflected on this point already in his webinar, but we've seen from some of the industry greats such as Procter and Gamble just a week and a half ago stating that they believe that the crisis is not the time to switch off the lights, but rather to actually remind consumers of its brands and to keep those benefits of the brand central to people's memories. So they actually said that they're doubling down on their investments and they're going to increase their marketing spend in categories such as beauty, healthcare, and baby. And actually, they've already seen from these investments and the early on investments that they've had a positive impact on their business already. And I think that we can safely say that P&G, as an example, has used the hard data from the past to back up their opinions. And you can see from this slide, which has been sourced from various different data sources, that advertisers that maintain or increase their advertising spend during crises and post-crises tend to see higher sales in markets. And that makes sense because people will obviously have a better memory of those brands in their minds, and we could see that this is obviously helping influence P&G certainly in their marketing activities. And if we take this one step further and have a look at what people are expecting from companies, but let's start from what they actually do, or how is their mindset when they're consuming different kinds of media, because that's a starting point, of course, for any advertising. And we can see that most people want to feel some form of entertainment or want to have some form of escapism or stay up to date. And this is pretty mutual across the markets that we did this research in, so the US, UK, France, and Germany. And also, if we take that one step further and look at some other data, we can see that consumers actually appreciate that brands are continuing to communicate in today's climate. So we can see that there definitely is an ear for advertising right now. And surprisingly, when we asked people around the world, and this first data slide you'll see is from the US, about what they would feel like when being advertised to during this period, we can see that actually only a small proportion, as Chris already mentioned, actually said that they don't want to receive any advertising. The most people actually say that that offers them some form of security and safety. They want to reassured that things will return to normal, and there's no need for panic or being afraid. Of course, also the point on positivity, that they want to feel good again and improve their well-being. So feeling calm and comforted is very, very important. Now we had the same question posed to the Italians in the first week of April, and later on in April to the French markets, and you can see that the themes are very, very similar. In fact, no market is saying, even if the severity of the lockdown was quite extreme in Italy, as we know, there was not a big proportion of people who said stop advertising. In fact, they saw it as a sense of, again, positivity for them, but also a sense of enjoyment and security. And you can see even with our French colleagues that enjoyment is even a more important thing. And that's very, very important to see as we move across the spectrum of the crisis in time. We can see those elements of enjoyment and positivity becoming more and more important. And so advertising should really be thinking about capturing the right motivation today. And that's as we move in towards the post-COVID crisis, that elements such as belonging, enjoyment, and positivity become even more important in today's crisis. So seeing signs that things are improving and that some restrictions in some markets will be soon loosened, maybe a little bit further away from that right now, but these points of routines and facing the daily challenges of boredoms are quite important right now, and we'll see that reflected in some of the advertising I'll show in a couple of slides' time. What we have seen is that there is unfortunately what Chris referred to as well, the sea of sameness that is plaguing the industry. So we see that a lot of advertisers who focused solely on coronavirus kinds of advertising have probably missed the mark, and they've failed to connect this message that they've tried to communicate, or at least attempted to say that they're doing something good in the corona times, but they've forgotten their USP or what their brand really stands for. So what that means is that normal people actually tend to forget which brands are advertising, and they see all of this advertising saying similar things, and that's of course a pity for the advertisers who've been doing this at this point in time. And we took this one step further in that we look at here on the screen 10 different ads that we assessed in our Creative Spark creative evaluation solution, and we can see that 8 out of the 10 ads that we assessed here across many different verticals in the US, you can see that 8 out of 10 actually missed the mark when it comes to branded breakthrough. In other words, what that means is that cognitive immunity is setting in, and most people will probably not remember any of the brands that were advertising. In fact, only 2 of them were really acceptable in terms of branded memory. So and why are we seeing these mixed results? We are seeing them because there are a lot of efforts being made to obviously produce new content with a lot of restrictions. The time associated with producing the content is minimal. We don't have many companies are scrambling to get reviews done, using past footage, stock footage, etc. But one thing that hasn't changed is the creative quality still matters, and that's very, very important. So let me show you one example that is a really good example of what Budweiser did, which is what I refer to as refreshingly good. So let me play that ad for you right now.
Able to pick up good yardage on the play. You know, the best part of this defense is their defensive line and their interior.
Hello?
Hey, who? What's up?
Nothing, B. In quarantine, having a bud. What's up with you?
Nothing. Quarantining, having a bud.
True. True.
What's up? What's up? Yo, who's that?
Yo, pick up the phone.
Hello?
What's that?
What's up? Yo, where's Dookie?
Yo, Duke. Yo.
What's up?
What's that?
So you okay, B?
I'm good, B. Just quarantining, having a bud. Thanks for checking in.
So a great example of being refreshingly good, and just because we are in difficult times doesn't mean that we should forget the basics. Utilizing distinctive assets like this, striking the right tone, and having a strong story. And of course, this is a reincarnation of an ad that was aired in 1999 and now in 2020, and this crisis being aired for Budweiser in the US and the UK. Another brand that's really done a great job of being really authentic and consistent across the COVID times and adhering to those different elements is IKEA. And we can see on the right hand side of the chart, IKEA in China when the crisis first broke out, and we can see the visual of them using the home and the framing of the kid and the parents watching this kid work and saying that they'd never seen him before. or in other markets where they use the home and their assets that they are really known for very cleverly in their different pieces of advertising. So in other words, it's not just seen as generic. They are really being authentic, as I said, and faithful to the DNA that IKEA has. A great example of being authentic and faithful was in Australia, an example from Cadbury's, which aired this particular ad just around Easter time. So I'll show you this one. Have a look.
Come on, darling. Up you hop.
Mum, look.
Can I have it? There's a glass and a half in everyone.
So I'm sure you'll all agree that's a really great use of, it's a strong story. Again, being very authentic and faithful, using the cues that Cadbury's are really well known for, the colors, those distinctive assets, but also hitting the right motivations of belongingness for sure, with the family scene we know really well right now, pure enjoyment, and of course a little a spark of positivity at the end there. Wouldn't anyone want to get such an egg around Easter? Certainly I would, that's for sure. So a great example. Another one which I think is very very good for this particular time we find ourselves in is Decathlon is a sports brand who you probably know very well, who have used the routine situation, routines and situations to really show how their brand can support people during their ritual behaviors when they're caught in lockdown. So they show different forms of fitness with children, using your child as a weight, for example, playing table tennis on the dining room table, doing swimming through your passage. So very, very clever way of turning the homemade situations and homemade video into small little digital stories that we used on Facebook and in YouTube to really connect Decathlon to these small differences. And that's a good thing, even if it doesn't seem like a direct line. It obviously helps Decathlon be present in people's minds and creates those mental networks that will leave a positive impression of the brand with people even when the crisis is over. So a great use of really tapping into those different motivations. And just to sum up before I get to the last charts, there are three key principles that all of these ads have in them, and I've mentioned that being authentic and faithful about what your brand stands for is critical, but also making sure you act and do. So the Decathlon example, a perfect example of that, and finding the right story and striking the right tone between the message and the story is obviously key. But what we've seen, and many of those advertisers did really, really well, is they focused in on the different elements that I mentioned are what people are seeking for from advertising right now. And those elements of belongingness, enjoyment, and positivity are critically important. So how can we find ways to get closer with consumers, yet with a distance, but also finding some way to enjoy the advertising that's being shown, and positivity and optimism is obviously always a good thing. So, and then of course, being authentic and faithful to what your brand is known for is critical, and layering those motivations into into those aspects will be key in this essence. So that's all for me, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar, and thanks for